Fantasy Art History with Abelard and Joe.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome to Fantasy Art History with Abelard. That's him.
And Joe. And that's Joe.
I'm Joe. Hi.
Hi.
This is our first time making a show.
So you might wonder what is going to happen on Fantasy Art History with Abelard and Joe. Well, let me tell you. We're going to talk about all kinds of fantasy art from pulps to comics, all kinds of stuff, but maybe especially with a focus on some role-playing games. I like role-playing games. How about you, Joe?
I like and play a lot of role-playing games, and I like to look at and think about a lot of art. So, uh, should we get started? Should we just jump in?
Let's just jump in. Who are we talking about today, Joe?
Today we're going to look at just a couple of pieces by an artist named David Sutherland, who created some of the very first art for Dungeons and Dragons back in the olden days.
Yeah. If you haven't seen early D&D art, you are missing out on some treasures. Let's take a look at one.
Okay, I gotta go flip it over.
Joe learned how to do OBS for this, actually.
Yeah, here we go. I think I got it. It worked.
Did you hit change scene?
I did. I
Okay.
set it up right. I was a little worried.
Wow.
But it totally works. Like, there it is. There's some art up there. So, the first thing I want to say about this is, well, you can tell that this is for D&D because look at the kind of guys that are in there.
Yeah, they got a full party. A lot of D&D art. Before this, maybe you didn't see art of a full party, but what do we got here? We got a dwarf.
And a wizard.
We got a fighter over here.
And there's a guy with a bow.
As is traditional, we've got two crappy little guys in the corner. We've got a guy who's dual wielding. In later editions, dual wielding will be given more prominence.
What's so great about dual wielding, Abelard?
Well, I mean, visually, listen. Did I ever tell you about the time I went LARPing in college?
No, I didn't know
Well,
you went LARPing.
Well, I thought, I was young. I was just trying stuff out. It's after my big hacky sack phase.
Yeah.
And after I got done slacklining.
Oh, wow.
So
there are not a lot of socks who slackline,
Yeah, they say it looks like it's easier than tightrope walking, but all the slackliners say it's way harder. So anyway, it's just I saw some guys LARPing and they said, "You want to join in?" And it was like a Saturday or maybe like a Tuesday or whatever. And I thought, sure. Anyway, what you learn when you're LARPing is having a shield is the best thing you could ever have. You would never go anywhere without your trusty shield, and preferably a very long polearm indeed, 15, 20 feet. Can't give me a long enough polearm.
20 feet, really?
Yeah, because that's 20 feet away from the other guy who's trying to stab you with his dumb sword.
Hang on, wait, side question. In traditional, like in real life, is that how long a polearm is?
Yeah.
20 feet?
You ever see a pike?
I mean...
You gotta look at some pikes sometime.
Okay. I guess I should.
Long pikes.
Because if you look at the illustration, their polearms, they look not 20 feet long. Unless those guys are huge. They are pretty big.
Well, but you have seen some of like that famous Paolo Uccello with all the lances sticking up, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That one's so good.
So
we should put that in here so you guys can look at it.
But in visual art, having a shield and a long polearm doesn't really translate as well. For the same reason that like in sci-fi a lot of the time they have to make up a reason why we're not just shooting missiles at each other at light speed from the other galaxy or whatever, right? That's what Dune is about, I think. So in the same way, right, you have to draw yourself with like a couple of swords. You've got two hands, you're going to have a sword in each hand. If you put a shield in there, it looks kind of inert.
It's true. Same thing with helmets. If you got a helmet on, you can't see what you look like.
Yeah, and just like the shield and polearm thing from before, you really want a helmet. You don't want to get conked on the head even with a foam core sword.
So did you have a helmet when you were LARPing?
I did, but I didn't have not every vulnerable part of my body was protected. And I got thwacked so hard I almost blacked out. And that was the end of LARPing for Abelard.
That's so scary.
What?
I thought the danger in LARPing was, becoming too psychologically entwined with your character, not, getting physically injured. But I guess I was wrong.
I think it can be a little bit of both.
Well,
To go back to the actual
back
art,
to
though.
the dual wielding.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I think in this piece that you couldn't draw the full 20 feet of your, longest, best pole arm is that as an artist, you're a little bit hampered by the size of the space you're filling up. Wouldn't have been room to make those pole arms that big and keep your fishmen big enough to actually see anything.
This idea of like a skirmish level encounter where there are about 8 guys and 4 good guys and 4 bad guys, and all the guys get equal pictorial weight, or the good guys slightly more. Seems, maybe I'm wrong, it seems pretty unique to D&D, the constraints of the D&D subject matter.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's not kind of like a heroic scene that you might see in academic painting. It's more of it's like a weird little battle. There's a group, not individuals.
It's kind of the uneasy tension of D&D in general, where sure, we're heroes, but there are 4 of us and we all agree to be equally heroic. That's not really what a hero is like outside of something like D&D. Or I guess there's other serial. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
I don't know. I don't know every heroic tradition.
I guess there's Jason and the Argonauts.
And I think isn't like if you look at Journey to the West, that's kind of multiple heroes, right?
Yeah, and the Iliad. Well, listen, we're not here for relentlessly correct, never wrong insights from Abelard and Joe.
We're here to talk about what it's like to draw fantasy art. And one of the things I wanted to talk about looking at this little piece is that this is a piece of spot art, and that's got a specific sort of place in book design. You're doing layout and you write a bunch of text. You run out of text, but there's still page left. You gotta have some little guys in there.
Yeah.
And I think this is a beautiful part of just, book design. Not many books for adults have pictures in them. They used to. If you look at, like back in the day when you got a book by Charles Dickens, there was tons of drawings of all the people in them. The drawings were beautiful. This is one of the few places you might see this number of illustrations in the modern age, I think. And so you would, as an illustrator, you would create for any book, and people still do this today, a bunch of little pieces like this that can kind of go anywhere, and they fit the width of the page, and they just show you some cool stuff that you might run into throughout the course of the book. It's not necessarily a specific encounter. It's something that you could throw in anywhere there's extra space.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about this a lot, but part of the mission of role-playing games, because you're not going to be exactly these guys, you don't really care about them specifically usually, and you may not have this exact encounter, but the point is sort of to communicate the kind of encounter you could be having.
Yep. And I think this is a beautiful little piece of spot art. Here's some things I like about it. It's got a nice symmetry on both sides. You've got the curvy fish guys kind of creating a nice border. It almost has a sort of decorative aspect to it. And then the exciting, more angular subject matter of your fighting group right in the middle. It looks a little decorative. It looks like the sort of decorative flourishes in the fishtails that in a different kind of book might just be a drawing of some swirls or something, just like an abstract border.
Yeah, it has a wonderful sense of rhythm, and I think a great sense of negative space and sort of composition. Like if you were just to section off the 2 guys on the left-hand side, the way that like their muscly arms echo the movement of their snake bodies is really beautiful. And the way that their spears, mere 8-footers, create a sense of rhythm with the swords of the sort of protagonist characters and then the spear on the right side. Like there's a really elegant sense of space and tempo to it.
Yeah, totally agree. Should we look at another piece of artwork by our friend David Sutherland?
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay, hang on, I'll go hit the thing. It's hard to do because the buttons are real small on my computer. Did you get it?
No, I still just see some banner.
Wait.
Oh, you got it. You got it. Come back. Okay. Okay, get back on camera. Okay.
All right. So
Wow, I love this one.
yeah, this is great. It's kind of strange, and I love the strangeness of it. If I was going to say what I think is strange and interesting about this, it's the sort of stillness of all of the figures. The warrior who's stepping forward. He's got a shield. He's ready.
Yeah.
Um,
This was from back in the day. You could put helmets and shields on your guys. No one would bat an eye. They thought it would be cool.
yeah, he looks ready. He has like the calmness of an ancient warrior that you might see carved on the side of a building or something. He's got this stiff monumentality, I think. And the creatures that are opposing him, they're so imaginative. I love how every single one is different.
Yes.
Completely different scheme. Uh, snake, centipede, some kind of furry gorilla man, and then it's kind of goblin guy. They don't look like any specific other creatures I've ever seen, and I love that. I love being surprised like that.
Yeah, one thing I think about is that we think of every image as a sort of, I don't know, we sort of default to thinking of images.
What's going on? Oh, Henning.
For those of you coming back to join us, minor technical difficulties.
Yeah, it was.
You missed some scintillating conversation.
It was incredible.
Joe said some stuff that I'm going to be thinking about for a long time. But to get back to this picture, one thing I was saying is we sort of have a contract when we look at an image, like a drawing or a painting, that we're looking at a depiction of a moment. But I think an image like this and many others like this are actually depicting a kind of period of time. This is almost like a montage where, again, if this is about RPG art explaining to you what's going to happen and what kind of fun stuff you get to do, this is sort of saying, like, you get to fight all these guys. You get to fight this snake, this surly snake person. You get to fight this big centipede. You get to fight this sort of unicorn griffin goblin man, and you get to fight Big Ape.
Yeah.
And it's just you, the fighter with the best posture in the land.
Yeah, he looks like he's gonna win. He looks determined. He doesn't look panicked. He looks solid.
I would say he looks like he's just received a parking ticket on a spot that he thought was 100% fine.
Yeah, he's pretty PO'd. One of the things I like about this a lot is the incredible richness of detail in the drawing of, when you look at the like tiny little lines that describe all of the sort of ape man looking guy's fur, how they fade into darkness around the edges to help form this shape and make it more three-dimensional. Or all of the tiny little circles and lines on the centipede lady. I think that contrasting with the like flat black behind them is so strong. I think it's actually, as an artist, can be really hard to make a decision like, I'm just gonna use black in the background. There's not even a line for where the ground is. It's just shown to you by the sort of undulating centipede lady's sort of body.
That's a good point. It really sketches out the space.
So you have to be pretty confident to be like, yeah, they're in darkness. They're in a dark dungeon. None of that's important. What's important is this guy, how he's facing all these other crazy dudes, and it really makes the piece stronger than if there had been, like some background.
Yeah.
Should we go on to the last piece?
Yeah, I would love to see the last one.
Let's see the last piece. Okay, hang on. I will get better at this. Don't worry. This is our first time,
Yeah, come back in a year. We're going to have animated transitions.
We'll have hired an assistant.
That's going to be great.
It's going to be amazing. I've never had an assistant before. I'm looking forward to it.
You can really browbeat them.
They would bring us a little glass of tea, maybe, and tell us how good we're doing.
Boy, that sounds great.
Sounds good.
If you would like to be the person who waits on us and helps us out with these sort of things and really does, to be frank, the bulk of the work, drop us a line.
We're ready for help.
But to look at this.
Yeah, look at it's so good. This is one of my favorite pieces. I think I saw this the first time in a literal, physical D&D book, and it blew me away. I think the impact that this has is incredible.
Do you want to tell us what this piece is called?
It's called, and if you were to zoom in very close to the bottom, you can tell because he drew in the title called Paladin in Hell. And I believe it. This looks like hell to me.
Yeah.
It's actually terrible in there.
It does look really bad.
I think the reasons that this is so successful, compared to the piece we looked at last, which had lots of detail in the figures, but none behind them, this piece has a lot of detail almost everywhere, except around the paladin. And I think he has done an incredible job of using the composition and using some flat blacks. So you look at under where the paladin is standing, that big hunk of black there, and this upward, it's this, no, this way, like this. See that movement through the piece? I'm kind of tracing it. Imagine that. That motion takes your eye kind of on a little trip. You go up and you come back down and you see that paladin standing there in a glowing light, like a heavenly light. Like maybe he just cast a paladin spell. Is there a paladin spell that makes you glow? I never played.
You think there'd have to be. If not now, then.
Yeah. Because I never played a paladin.
Well, to be a paladin at that time, it's a really interesting piece of meta design. You were never actually supposed to play as one, but there were rules where if you rolled the best ability scores imaginable, 18 charisma, 15 strength, 14 intelligence. Back in the day where it was just roll 3d6, add them together, take it or leave it. If you got that, and there was a 1 in 20 million chance that you could have it, then you got to roll up a paladin. And then you just got to be better than all of the other fighter classes, but still probably worse than a wizard. So it has this kind of meta progression that maybe now you would put in a roguelike video game where every so often you get to play as this incredibly cracked guy. But it was just about either looking at that and dreaming of the day you could roll up your paladin and what they'd be like, or pretending to the DM that you rolled those scores and playing as a paladin.
I think that my favorite part of this drawing is the little bug creature that kind of takes up the center space.
Yeah.
The way that he is overlapped with the spear that one of the demons is holding, and the way that the shape of the spear thing, which is kind of like a weird trident, I don't think that weapon would be really good if you actually used it, because I don't see how you would get it back out of a guy.
I don't see it either.
I think it would get stuck. But maybe, it's hell. Maybe you're not going for...
I think it might be intended as kind of a man catcher. Like if you put it over somebody, then they're getting poked from all sides and they can't get out. Yeah. And if hell is more about a carceral environment than a place where they fight a war, right? You just need little things that entrap people like that.
So smart. Here's one thing I want to say that you might not know this about artists if you're a non-artist. It takes a lot of time to draw stuff like this, and I swear that while you're drawing it, you think about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of just you're making up little stories about all of these guys as you do. Or I don't know. At least I do. And so you think, yeah, this guy is in hell. I wonder what sort of spear he would have. Well, maybe it would be like this. And well, anyway, getting back to what I was saying, I think that the way that those two shapes overlap and mirror each other and confuse each other in a way, like I'm looking at another bug. No, it's a spear. And this sort of overlapping of similar detail has this truly hellish air to it that I think is incredible.
It's sort of hell as like teeming and overfull. Like it's full, like you can't just walk on the ground. You have to walk on this big surly bug. And you can't even walk all the way to the end of the bug without bumping into somebody's spear.
Yeah. Abelard, what's your favorite part of this piece?
My favorite part is, so look down at the bottom right-hand corner. You see that demon with the batwing who's holding the spear we talked about?
Yeah.
Now look at the other smaller demon who looks just like him but is half his size.
I didn't even notice him at first.
I say him, but obviously there's no way to know. And
Yeah.
so he's puts his hand on the other guy's wrist as if to say, "No, brother, discretion." Right? To be like, this guy, this paladin is so tough, right? But also the kind of implicit, there's almost a world building to say, like, there are these two guys who look exactly alike, but one is tiny and is touching the other one. It's almost emotional. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a really good, it's a really good piece. It just is really inspiring. And you can imagine, getting your guys together and going there and really,
That could be you
that could be you,
in hell.
Kicking ass. Well,
Well,
with that, I think we're gonna sign off for the night. But thank you so much for joining us. My name is Joe,
I'm Abelard.
and do you want to say
And
our catchphrase?
this is Fantasy Art History with Abelard and Joe.
And until next time, keep on dreaming.
I think that went pretty well.
I think it went good.
All right, hang on.
Kind
Can you
of
turn off?
got all messed up.
Yeah. Better turn off OBS real.
Oh yeah, okay. Hang on.
Thanks, guys.